A few months ago, Ninja launched the Double Stack, an air fryer that looked like no other, one that promised to fit into small kitchens but deliver the same capacity and performance of an air fryer with a larger footprint. There was lots of publicity and even a pop-up restaurant on London's South Bank which was built to look like a giant double stack where you could eat food cooked in a real double stack. But when it launched to the public, the double stack had some haters, with some people saying it doesn't cook as well as other air fryer models. In this video, I'll get to the bottom of the criticisms of its design, talk you through why it's built the way it is, and I'll show you several side-by-side tests I did in my kitchen cooking exactly the same dishes in the Double Stack and the Ninja Dual Zone Max, so you can see for yourself once and for all if there's a real difference in cooking times and performance when you actually do things according to the instructions. And if you want to skip ahead on this video to the bits that are relevant to you, the timings for the different sections are appearing on the screen right now, and they're in the description below as well. So first, let's look at the design of the Double Stack. The 9.5 litre capacity is identical to the Dual Zone, and the drawers are slightly different dimensions. So the Dual Zones are 213mm by 167mm, and the Double Stacks are 215mm by 183mm. But the biggest difference is actually the drawer depth. The Dual Zones is 14.5cm deep, but the Double Stacks is just 13cm deep. The Double Stack has clearly been made to fit under kitchen cupboards on a worktop, which is why those drawers are a little bit shallower. It measures approximately 37.5cm high, and the bottom of my kitchen cabinets are 41cm off the worktop. But keeping the height low has meant a couple of things. Firstly, they couldn't add the heating elements above the drawers in this model as they have on the Dual Zone, because that would have added too much height, and exactly the same with the control panel, which couldn't go on the top. So what they've done is they've put the heating element at the back of the drawers with vents in the drawers to allow the warm air in from the back. And then they've taken the control panel and placed that on the right-hand side on a small section that sticks out of the main body. Now, by putting the heating elements at the back, it means the machine is deeper than a standard air fryer. It measures 47cm front to back, including the handle. But when you factor in worktop upstands and power points sticking out, it can use up 52cm of a 60cm deep worktop. In comparison, the Dual Zone is about 37cm front to back, including the handle. So this has created another problem. They couldn't put the hot air vents on the back, because if they did that, you'd have to pull the air fryer out 12cm from the wall when you were using it, by which stage you'd actually be running out of worktop. So instead, the hot air outlet is on the right-hand side, which of course means that you need to leave clearance on the right of the air fryer on your worktop. But because the control panel is already sticking out at the side, it's only an extra 6cm that you have to leave clear. On the Double Stack, the crisper plate has been designed to fit into the drawer in two ways. The first is low down, like it would be on the Dual Zone, and the second option is that you can invert it and place it high up in the drawer to allow increased airflow beneath it so that small frozen items can cook quicker. They are quite noticeably different in design compared to the Dual Zone, with extra silicone pieces to protect the drawer. But don't worry, I know what you're thinking, you can remove these for washing. With the Double Stack, you also get racks included. I've never been a big fan of racks, actually, because they're usually third-party designed and they don't use the space in the drawers very efficiently. But these ones have been designed by Ninja really well. They use the space well, and the drawer has been designed with a ledge for them to rest on, so you insert them with the handles facing up, so they're easy to remove. Now, these racks are included for a very specific purpose, which is the Double Stack Pro setting. This is a function which has been brought over to the Double Stack air fryer from the Ninja multi-cooker, and it allows you to cook vegetables on the bottom and fish and meat or main dishes which you want to get really crispy on the top half of the rack. And of course, you can do this twice over with different meats and different sides in both drawers. It's a brilliant idea and a really efficient use of space. Now, looking at the control panel, which is a little bit different from any other air fryer, you have buttons to select each zone, one on the top, two on the bottom. You use the dial to choose your setting, and then you can alter time and temperature with the small buttons above that. I did feel like the big dial should also be the start button like it is on the dual zone, but in fact the start button is down at the bottom, and there's a separate power button too, which I always like to see on an air fryer. Above those buttons there are sync and match. Sync is used when you're cooking two separate dishes and you want them to do a staggered start but finish cooking at the same time. And match is when you want to program one drawer and then duplicate the settings to the other drawer. And then, as I mentioned, there's also double stack pro, which is when you cook using the rack with sides and main on separate layers. Now, before I show you my kitchen test, a quick favour from me. If you're enjoying this video, please click the thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit the notifications bell so that you know when the next video is published. On this channel, I help you choose and use your UK home appliances. So on to my food tests in both the dual zone and the double stack. As always, I try to cook a mixture of the most popular foods that are cooked in air fryers, but also things that fit around our family life. This isn't intended to be a cooking video. It is a demonstration of how the two different models cook. So don't get mad at me if you don't like my sausages. So first up were two roast chickens. I couldn't find two that were identical weights, but they were pretty close. The left-hand one is 1.4 kilograms and the right-hand one is 1.5 kilograms. The larger one went into the dual zone and the slightly smaller one went into the double stack. I cooked them for 40 minutes on roast and then 6 minutes on max crisp at the end of it. Both chickens were cooked through in that time, but the one in the dual zone had a slightly higher internal temperature when they finished. And as you can see, the one on the left in this image, which is the dual zone chicken, has darker browning on the skin. So the next thing I tried was a toasted cheese sandwich in each air fry, not for any particular reason other than the fact that we wanted to eat that for lunch. Now, this being an imperfect real-life kitchen test, we didn't have two sandwiches which were exactly the same size. So I cut each of them in half and then I put half of each one in each drawer on air fry at 200 Celsius. After 6.5 minutes, the one in the dual zone was nice and brown and crunchy and ready to come out with melted cheese. The double stack one wasn't, so we left it for an additional minute. But even then, it was noticeable that the sandwich at the back was still much paler than any of the others. If you look at the two plates side by side, the dual zone sandwiches have a much browner finish. Next, I tested both air fryers side by side with a drawer of 6 sausages and a second drawer with enough frozen chips to cover the bottom with no overlapping. Both air fryers were on roast for the sausages and air fry for the chips. Halfway through, I gave them a shake. You can see that the sausages at the back of the double stack don't have a lot of colour at this point, but after an extra 3 minutes on top of the time the dual zone had and another shake, everything was evenly cooked. And yes, you may have noticed that there are only 4 sausages left in the double stack at the end when I started with 6. That's what happens when you're doing cooking tests in a real family home. Somebody ate 2 of them before I finished the experiment. But that's fine, because the 2 that they took away were the 2 most well cooked. Now, for any bakers watching this, I also did a side-by-side test with 2 sponge cakes. This is a recipe I cook a lot. I made the batter and I divided it into 2 identical tins, checking they weighed the same, and I cooked both cakes on bake for 20 minutes. Both cakes looked almost identical, but again, there's slightly more browning on the one from the dual zone on the left. Arguably, if you left the double stack one in for a couple more minutes, it would have matched the one on the left. Frozen fish fingers also got tested out, 180 on air fry for 8 minutes as per the package instructions, making sure that everything was shaken well several times during cooking, not just back to front but side to side too, so they actually flipped over. And I'll talk about this in a minute because this is a really important part of using this air fryer. This is the plate of the finished fish fingers, and I don't think you can spot which ones were cooked in which air fryer. And finally, I wanted to test all 4 drawers on both air fryers cooking at once to make sure there were no different results when the machines were used at capacity on exactly the same settings. So my son made a double batch of cookies. Again, the double stack needed a couple of minutes extra on top of what the dual zone needed. Here are the results of the cookies on the cooling rack. The double stack ones are on the right, and you can see there are some paler ones in the mix, and those were the ones which were near the back of the drawers. So now I just want to run through some of the criticisms I've seen online of the double stack, because I've owned and reviewed an awful lot of air fryers, and I think after a couple of weeks of owning it and cooking with it, I've got some answers for some of the criticisms that I've seen. So the first criticism I saw about this model was that it took much longer to cook using both drawers of the double stack compared to one drawer. And in fact, the channel where I saw this is Joe's Phenomenal. It's linked in the description below. And Joe even showed a sticker on the top of his machine which showed how much additional cooking time you would need if you were running both drawers at once. But here's the thing. Joe is in the US and they have 110 volts compared to 40 volts. I've lived in North America and I can tell you firsthand that their appliances do run slower than UK ones. But I wanted to test it out and make sure I was absolutely sure. So I tested the theory out with some pain au chocolat. I cooked one in one drawer first for 11 minutes at 190 Celsius, and then I did 2 in separate drawers for the same time at the same temperature. And as you can see, the results here on the cooling rack are identical. So there is no issue of reduced power on the UK models of the double stack when you use both drawers. And that's also a really good reason why you should subscribe to this channel, because I'm one of the few YouTubers concentrating on UK appliances. And despite the fact that they do look similar to the US versions, they are, in a lot of circumstances, very different. Now, the second criticism I saw was that the design of the double stack leads to uneven cooking or browning, with things at the back closest to the fan and the heating element cooking slower. Now, you've seen a little bit of that in my kitchen experiments, but in the instructions, Ninja advise you to shake the drawer 3 times during a cooking cycle compared to once halfway with the dual zone. So I think some of the comparisons have been a little unfair on this model by not following these instructions to the letter, because if you follow the advice and you shake regularly, the cooking does even out. Obviously, that's trickier with stuff that has to be moved with tongs, but it is still possible and it's advised. Now, the final criticism that I've seen of the double stack is that it's slower to cook than the dual zone. I've tested it out. You've seen the results in this video and you can see clearly that it is slower, but we're talking about 1 or 2 minutes on top of the cooking time. And it's still faster than waiting for a conventional oven to heat up and cooking in that. So this is an appliance that's been designed with compromises, but you're probably only considering it because you're short on worktop space and you have limited options for which air fryer model will fit in your kitchen. And if that's the case, please ignore the negative reviews. This model will do the job. It has some quirks, but I see the thinking behind how it was designed, and I think they've done the best that they could to deliver an air fryer with a decent capacity that sits on a small footprint. And I also love the fact that they brought over the stacked cooking from the multi-cooker, which is a massive beast which most people can't fit in their kitchen anyway. So if this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would share it with friends or in a Facebook group, I would really appreciate that. Any questions, drop them below, and thanks very much for watching.